Hello everybody and welcome to this walkthrough of the text guide for the Cinco de Mayo tournament with me and Mr. RJTV. Welcome RJ.
Hey!
Flames is in the house. So
See some flames in the chat.
Oh, I'm so happy to be back on screen with you, man. So I'm really looking forward to go through the text guides. I hope you guys that are watching looking forward to this as well. Much useful content. And if you do have any questions for me or for RJ or for like both of us, please make a comment in the comment section below and we will be happy to answer you there. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So I think it's time to get started. The tournament starts tomorrow, 30th of April. And we're going to start with hole number 1. It's a Milano par 4, short par 4. So I'm going to drop the ball to you, RJ. How do you play this one?
Well, hello everyone, and thank you, Tommy, for having me back. Love being here. As far as hole 1, it's pretty straightforward. I really like your white line. That's the way I take. I like the extra mile with full topspin. And just be very careful not to clip that rough by where the first box is. I wouldn't be opposed with us lower level extra mile users to maybe aim a little closer to the middle of the fairway and put a little right curl on there, because if you end up in the rough, that could potentially ruin your second shot for you.
Yeah, I can just build on that. It's like this is a short par 4, and if we do get tailwind on this one, and I mean tailwind like straight tailwind or like side wind / tailwind, then you are able to go to the fairway that like that island, I would have to say, to the right on according to the black line, bouncing it over, try to go for the green in 1. Have in mind that you need to have at least 6 bar of topspin to be able to reach over there, otherwise it will be too tough and you will most likely end up into the bunker or into the rough, and then you need to have to discuss with yourself, okay, would that be better than going for a thorn or a hornet like a short iron shot according to the white line. So in my book, I would rather go and play with my short iron if I know that I 100% or 99% would go into the bunker or into the rough. But now when I do have a great driver, then I will try to get over and get to the green in 1. Have in mind that you don't want to go into the water, then you will be having a very, very tough time. So I would say with the ball type here, I know many people have been asking what type of ball for these type of holes, and I'm going to try to give some short explanation. Now this one will be a long one as I'm talking and not breathing. So I would say on this one I would go with a more wind resistant ball if I would be going according to the white line, and I'm not mean like a special ball like with 5 in wind resistance. I would go maybe with a navigator, or maybe I would go with a kingmaker depending on which division you actually are playing with. If you are having tailwind, then you can, and this way to give that boost to your ball, then you can go with a Titan, for example, instead of a Kingmaker, because then you will get more tailwind than you would be having with your Kingmaker. So we go over directly to hole number 2, par 3, one of the oldest, I would have to say. I have been playing this one for a couple of 100 times, I believe. But how do you play this one, RJ?
Well, I would say bring out your Goliath. A lot of rookie users are going to hit that red zone, that red line area, and have to overpower if you bring a backbone or something. So bring the Goliath, and that should take that out of play. Depending on how the wind is set up will depend where you're going to land on that little island, and that'll determine how much backspin you need. I don't believe you would ever have a case where you need front spin. And also, just to add on to what you said, I am assuming that you guys are all using at least Marlins. You should be if you want to come in a higher tour and win some better balls in rookie. Just to add to what you just said about the balls, I think that's great. Balls do make a difference. There's a couple holes here later that I might mention a little bit better ball, but at least bring that Marlin. And again, your Guardian should be good here.
Totally agree. When it comes to, as you can see, you have a blue line, you have a white line as well, and those lines mostly apply if you play from the second tee or from the third tee with a crazy amount of wind. I would say like having like this 12 mile per hour headwind, or like 10 mile per hour, or like having wind that you feel it's too hard to play on the island in the middle of that big bunker. I use the rough according to the white line most of the time. If I just want to have a safe birdie, I can use 1 to 2 bars of topspin, go in there with a max side spin to the right, or I can go with, according to the blue line, going with my Guardian or another club with a lot of backspin, using the backspin on the fairway, curling it into the right. Those type of shots are a little bit more technical, but at least you will have an easier way to kind of like get a birdie from a great shot instead of needed to hit perfect or otherwise risk the bunker or the rough by the fairway in the middle of that bunker. And I would say for every par 3, I believe the best way to use is a wind resistance ball with as much wind resistance as possible. So I would say that this is the time, at least for pro expert and masters, to pull out maybe a wind resistant ball 5. Otherwise, at least have wind resistance 3, which is a kingmaker. That is my opinion when it comes to the ball. Hole number 3, we start off with the first par 5. It's one of the oases, or like the oasis, maybe the right pronounced. So how do you play this one then, RJ?
I like this is one of those holes. Just be very careful and mindful of the wind, because many times you will end up in the rough here. I take the black line with full topspin for us lower level, rookies, lower level extra miles. Obviously, if you got some ridiculous wind and you think you might end up rolling off into the rough, you might want to take a bar or 2 off. Be very careful not to hit the rough on the left or on the northernmost part as you're going up, and then that'll set you up for a nice easy approach on your second shot with either a Viper or a Big Dog, whatever you choose. But yeah, this is one of those, I see a lot of people making a mistake and clipping the rough, or possibly even landing in the sand, and you definitely want to avoid that, because that'll just mess everything up after.
Correct, and I would say, like, just fill in with that. This is one of the par 5s where if you hit it into the rough or into the bunker, you will not be able to reach for the green into if you're not having a crazy amount of tailwind for your second shot. And those par 5s I like those. They're also a bit scary. And that's why, if we're having some crazy wind for our first shot, when you play from the second tee, or even from the third tee, like having headwind from the third tee will possibly make it almost impossible to reach according to the black line. And then you need to play according to the white line. And that is such a hard way to go, especially for the albatross part. Then you need to use a lot of curl, you need to use maybe some kind of backspin at some point as well. If we do get a lot of tailwind on this hole, you have a decision to make. You can either go for a trick shot going according to the white line, or you can go according to the black line, play yourself over. Have in mind, if you have tailwind, don't use more than 3 bars of topspin on your driver while going for the black line. Otherwise, you will have too much of a push over to the fairway that will, in some cases, put you up in the end of the rough or even into the bunker. As when it comes to the oasis, the fairways are already a bit bumpy. So if you find yourself going in a downhill way on the fairway, then you will get, like, as I can see on say on streams and stuff like you get shot out from a cannon or something like that. So it's very important to have in mind. And when it comes to par 5 here, it definitely comes down to the wind that we're having, which type of ball that we're actually going to be able to use. If we're having some headwind or sidewind, I would go with a kingmaker if we play from the second or the third tee to give as much wind resistance as possible. With tailwind, I would pull out a berserker and go full blast down the middle to try to put myself up for a shorter one. If you rather want to go with a kingmaker with tailwind, you can go that as well. So many different different ways to go on this par 5, but it's indeed a tough one. I'm talking too much here, I know, but it's
It's great information.
oh, that's good. So we go to hole number 4, short par 4. Can we get the eagle here?
Not only the eagle, I think you might be able to actually get a hole in one on this one if you're extremely lucky. Now, I'm not saying that you should expect a hole in one, but I really like that white line. I like the rough bump, and I like to be able to, I'm thinking extra mile, but also I was reading your text guide, some great information in there. I see you have the quarterback. So if the quarterback reaches, that's a much more accurate club and a lot safer way to go. And yeah, rough bump yourself. Even if you don't make it onto the green, you got yourself an easy chip.
Yeah, and here I would say, like, this is maybe the first time we may not be agreeing with each other that much. I would say, like, the white line, that is, in my book, way too risky. I dropped that one directly. But then I need to have in mind as well that I do have the backspin on my clubs, which gives me an easier way to bounce over the bunker. The reason you most of the times don't bounce over the bunker is because you, if you maybe put yourself into the rough or into the bunker, is because you need to go with that close line to the bunker to stay on the fairway or onto the green. The reason I'm going for the fairway bump is because I just wanted to put myself over the bunker easily, but I do want to have like at least 5 bars of backspin if we do have sidewind or tailwind. And I do agree in that way, if you're not having that type of club, maybe a low level extra mile, the white line is actually the way to go in this particular situation. And when it comes to this par 4 here, when it comes to the ball, if we are having tailwind on this one, we first of all need to have in mind this the ball is affected more by the wind as we play over the water and also a little bit downhill. So the ball will be, instead of 100% distance, you can take 120% with your adjustment. And then we can go with a wind resistant ball level 5 on this one if we do have a lot of tailwind. Otherwise, I would say the Titan and a Kingmaker for pro, expert and masters. And for rookie, I would say I would go with a Quasar here for the side spin, or maybe a Navigator depending on how you want to play it. So okay, then hole number 5, another hole of the Sunshine Glades. How do you play this one then?
I really enjoy the black line. I think that's where the first square is where your first bounce will be. And then that'll take you over onto the second patch of fairway to where you should have a nice, easy shot on green. Not necessarily, very direct shot on the hole itself, but setting yourself up for a nice, easy the third shot. So eagle opportunity, absolutely.
I believe so myself as well. This one will be very interesting with tailwind. I would say, like, the black boxes do maybe fool you a little bit there, but you can play it the two way. You can play it as RJ did describe. You can bounce it over there. The most common way, especially from the second tee or the third tee, is that you actually play yourself up short before the water, and using, like, as you can see, the first black box, and then you bounce it before the rough onto the green for your second shot. The white line is the more aggressive line. If you do have tailwind, then you're able to bounce over there and go with a long iron to the pin. And again, if we do have a lot of tailwind, and now I'm just talking to the people that actually are playing in Masters, that if we're having 17, 18, 19 in tailwind with a snow globe, for example, then we should be able actually to go for green in one. And that is maybe crazy when it comes to a par 5, but it could be very, very crazy. So tailwind, a lot of tailwind, then I would go with a snow globe. Otherwise, I would go with a Kingmaker. If we want to play ourselves up short, I would go from the first tee, I would go with a Navigator, and from second tee I would go with a Kingmaker. I would say the general ball when it comes to second tee or third tee, when you have like a par 5, when you get headwind or you get sidewind, then it is a Kingmaker or a Titan if you do have those in your bag. And when it comes to the front tee, the rookie division, then I would say the most useful ball is Marlin, Navigators, and Quasars in that particular matter. So we're going to go directly here, or not directly, but going to go through to hole number 6, par 3, Sunshine Glades, the last of them. How do you think you can play this one, RJ?
Oh man, I hate this hole in shootouts. It's very hard to get very close in terms of like 2 yards, 1 yard, getting an ace. I wouldn't really count on that too much. However, the black line, I see you got just one direction here, and that one direction is the exact direction that I take. I make sure to put a decent amount of backspin on. Something with a nice ball guide on it, that'll get you nice and close for a easy putt. On this particular one, aces, if you get lucky enough, great. Use that right curl. Maybe you'll get lucky and it'll drop, but don't expect an ace.
No, and I'll, like you said it so well in the beginning there, as this is a hole where it's so hard to get close in shootouts, and but in tournament play, like a shootout doesn't matter. You don't have to get it like 1 yard from the pin. But this is a really tough par 3. It may not look like that, but first of all, we play over water. And then second of all, we play downhill. So again, when it comes to all the Sunshine Glades, the ball is affected more by the wind due to those two aspects. So we just want, when we play with a wood club from second tee, or third tee, we're going to use, second tee, because we play with our driver from third tee. Then we're going to go with 5 bars of backspin. The only reason we play with a wood club from second tee is because we're having tailwind. If we're having headwind, we want to go with a driver with a lot of backspin. To be able to get close to the pin, I would go with a Thor's hammer, maybe, or with an extra mile, depending on how much backspin I do have. I could go with a quarterback as well, or a rocket from the second tee, depending on what you actually want to play with. But at least you need to use a lot of backspin if you play in headwind. From third tee, and the reason I know this so well is because I played this one 3 times in tournaments before, is that you need to use a quarterback here. In my book, quarterback is the one to go with all day and every day when it comes to the third tee. And when it comes to the ball, what do we say? We say wind resistance, always the wind resistance. And if you don't have any wind resistant ball with level 5 in wind resistance, then you go with the ball that have the most after that you actually can afford to spend. So that is very important when it comes to every par 3 to put yourself onto the green and make a birdie and then run like crazy from there. So hole and number 7, we go back to the Oasis now for 2 holes in a row. So par 4, and how do you play this one then, RJ?
I like the extra mile here for us rookies with full top spin. Play the wind very carefully. You do not want to catch the rough either by landing in the rough or by having your, not the initial contact, but I guess it would be where your first bounce would actually land, because then you'll come up short. You want to get as close to the top of the second fairway as possible. And then from there, you could pretty much use just about any club to go ahead and do a rough bump. And when you do a rough bump on this particular hole, I haven't been able to sink one yet, but I get very, very close for the eagle. Now, with that in mind, though, if you're worried about that first shot, you might want to go with a big dog just to have a little bit of extra oomph behind it so you can still reach that rough bump.
Yeah, and that is basically the way to play from every tee. I know there is a white line there. The white line only applies if we're getting a lot of headwind from the second or from the third tee, because that will mean that we will not be able to reach over to the fairway over the rough. And that was used in the last time we had this type of hole in the tournament, because the wind was very different back then, because some people could get tailwind, some people could get headwind. Now we all have the same wind. But otherwise, the only thing that I want to add is when it comes to the rough bump, according to the black line, is if when you're going with your wood club, it's always and all day and every day 2 bars of backspin. And you do want yourself to have a wood club with a lot of ball guide. And again, if you are uncertain of the distance, because there is a lot of distance that needs to be covered, especially if we have headwind for a second shot, pull off, as you can see on the text guide, hammerhead, cataclysm, or maybe you can go with the guardian even in that way. And the reason I'm not saying sniper is because that could be short at some point, especially again with headwind. Sidewind or tailwind for a second shot, then it doesn't really matter. Here you do want to have some distance with your ball. It's very important. So if you're not having a kingmaker in your bag, I would go with a titan. And I think that titan applies even if you're playing from the first tee. I think you should spend a titan on this hole, because the second shot will be long, and you do want, due to maybe the lower level clubs that you do have, you want to have the distance to be able to reach for the rough bump, and don't put the bunker in play. So we do have a par 3 here that I know more than 50% of the people hate. And that is hole 8. So how do we play this one? Is it even possible to get a hole in one?
I haven't seen it, but it's got to be possible. And as a matter of fact, I know that from watching you on the stream today. I saw you actually came over to the left of the hole, which that was the first time I've ever seen that, by taking the black line as shown. I just want to say also to my rookies out there, I hope you were paying attention to what Tommy was saying on hole 7. If you have a Titan, I would definitely bring a Titan there as well, because that second shot with the rough bump is extremely important. But as far as hole 8 goes, right where that black box is, I like bringing the Guardian. No, not the Guardian. I'm sorry, the Goliath. Put that full side spin on, do full curl. Aim as close to the rough as you're comfortable with. You know, you don't want to actually end up in the rough or the sand. And I believe it's about 1 bar of backspin, and that'll be your best opportunity for a hole in one. Don't expect it. I would say you'd have an easy putt there.
Yeah, and that is the thing. In the end, if you make a hole in one, you should share. Take off your clothes, run around in the living room, be happy, but don't expect that hole in one. This is a really tough one. And rather take a safe route and take the safe putt for a birdie. And it's very important, if you're playing with your long iron, that you do have some curl on your club, or at least have a ball with a lot of side spin. The more you can actually curl to the left and use side spin to the left, the more backspin you will need to have. If you play from the from the front tee or the second tee, you will play with a long iron. And the third tee will play with a wood club. And depending on how far you are from the pin, the more type of spin you need. So for an example, just a quick reference, if you do have tailwind from the first tee and you have from the second tee, you will have more air time when you play from the second tee, which means that the bounce will be different than it comes from the first tee, which means that you need to apply more backspin in that particular situation. And that is the same if you're going with headwind as well, that you need to remove a little bit more backspin to get the same type of bounce that you do want. The key to make the hole in one is to try to come in as much to the left as possible, and cross your fingers to let it maybe slide down to the pin. Some people, especially from the first tee, use the bunker shot, using 6 bars of topspin going into the bunker, but that is a risky shot, and I don't recommend it, but it's possible. And with balls, again, I would say side spin here is very important. And even though you may have a ball with wind resistance 5, most of those balls don't have side spin, not that much at least. So if you don't have a wind resistance ball level 5 with a lot of side spin, then I would go with a katana in this way. A katana would be good, kingmaker would be good, and the reason for it is because of the side spin. If you play from the first tee, a quasar would be good because of the side spin there, to give you the help so you're not get stuck behind the green in the rough. So hole number 9, we end up with the Milano. And yeah, so my question is like to every hole, how do you play this one, RJ?
I mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to mention it again. This is one of those holes that is played very straightforward. However, there will be many mistakes, many people rolling off into the rough, whether it be on the left or the right hand side. So, right off the bat, just to be safe, I would say bring a long rough iron if you have it. But more important than that, be extremely careful. I go extra mile, full top spin. You can see you have plenty of fairway to go all the way up there. Be very mindful of the wind, and then for your second shot, your first shot makes your second shot easy. So your second shot, I would say the Viper's probably going to be one of your more accurate clubs. You're not going to need top spin. It has a few bars of backspin on it. I think that would be perfect, and that might even set you up for an awesome albatross.
Yeah, that would be cool. Everybody would like to end up with an albatross. Not doesn't happen that often. And if we're going to go as we are have had in the latest tournaments, we have had tailwind for hole number 9. And I think the game makers do want us to try to go for this green in one. And I'm not talking about going from the first tee. I'm talking about going from second or third tee, using a power ball. Try to go according to the white line, bounce it as close to the green as possible with the topspin that you do have. But again, that is only if you do get tailwind. All other type of wind, that is exactly as you described it, RJ. It's like you go according to the black line. Try to stay away from overpower your drive. Use the topspin that you do have. Pull out maybe a big topper combined with a Kingmaker or a Titan with distance. So you just pull yourself with max topspin. You add a little bit of curl combined with side spin instead of having to overpower your shot over the bunker. If you have sidewind or headwind, then you can just go on the side of the bunker, curling it in, using a club instead with a lot more topspin, which gives you a much easier shot, but you will end up in the same place. And second shot, that is basically, again, I'm just going to copy what you said. It makes itself. The first shot makes the second shot. And cross your fingers, you have a bumpy green, you have a bumpy fairway just before the green, and make an albatross. But otherwise, it should be a great eagle in this particular matter. And when it comes to the ball, here again, I would say tailwind here. Especially pro expert and masters, I would go with a power ball. I would go and try to kill it and go as close to the green as possible, maybe end up in one of the bunkers or into the rough, or I would try to just bounce it over there according to the white line, end up before the bunker and have a short iron or a wedge for the pin. Otherwise, it's a ball, just a common ball, navigator for front tee, maybe a Titan when it comes to a par 5 to give yourself the distance, and Titan or Kingmaker from second or the third tee. So, wow, we're done. Again, we did it. Now, my friends, thanks a lot for watching. We are very happy about all the kind words. We love doing this. So please give us some thoughts in the comment section. What you did think. Maybe we did misanswer something that you're thinking about. Don't hesitate to make a comment there. This video will be up on my channel. It will be up on RJ's channel as well. So if you haven't gone into It's RJ TV, check that out for more streams and Golf Clash content. And just the last question for you, RJ, how have you decided how you're going to be streaming during the tournament?
I did uncover this old rookie account that I had, so I'm definitely going to be streaming rookie. I don't think I'm going to be able to do marathons, so I'm probably going to break them up, do pro one day, rookie the next, or vice versa. And as always, me and Tommy are friends, so we're definitely I'm not going to be stepping on his toes. So whatever times Tommy's streaming, I definitely won't be streaming at that time.
Nah, that is otherwise you will have 2 streams to watch at the same time. That would be awesome. So me myself, I'm streaming all the divisions this tournament, 1 account in every level, and I'm going to stream Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday, and that will be Yeah, I haven't decided with the accounts yet, but we'll see. It will be 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at least. Otherwise, I will be too tired. So, my friends, so I will leave over to RJ to end up with the phrase that we always use when we end up with the walkthrough for the text guides. So, how do we end the stream?
I would end the stream by saying, happy stroking.
Happy stroking, everybody.